I started school when I was 3. So
Three.
when I was 3 years old, yes.
She's a unique little unicorn.
Yes.
Okay.
You said in Bible class that Jesus did this, but my mom says this. So I'm like, oh, okay.
They're first moms. Teachers are first, because the child will
Yeah.
tell you at home that, oh, but my teacher said this, and
Yes.
mom will be like,
Yes.
because teachers always right.
Hours if you ask me how many times kids have called me mom or dad. So
Or
both.
dad?
Yes, it happened
What is
twice.
that about?
11th grade English, I taught that. That's fine. But if you give me 10th grade math, the kids are all gonna fail. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Because I'm thinking in school, if I was in school, I was going to get straight A's because I would just be going to Chat GPT for
Yes,
everything.
yes.
How is it
Yes.
affecting schools now?
I'm ashamed to say that as a teacher, I really don't like to read. But
Miss Ray!
I know I'm horrible.
Yes, welcome. What's good? How are you on today? Welcome to Real People Keeping It Real, another episode, banging episode. We have an amazing guest today that I'm allowing my wife to introduce this amazing person. So, honey, who we interviewing today?
So we have Miss Ray, Charity Ray today. She's an educator. Oh my God! And yeah, I know she looks 15. When we randomly met, I was like, "What? You cannot be an educator. You look like you're in college yourself." But surprisingly enough, she's put in a couple of years in the education system. And because our guests are very interested in what happens in the United States as well as abroad with the topics that we cover, so we thought let us bring her in so that she can give us a perspective of how to be an educator or a teacher in the United States. But in particularly, she is a private school teacher, but she'll tell us more about it. And we're just excited to just have a conversation with her, get to know her better, as well as hear the ins and outs of education or the education system in the United States. So welcome, Miss Ray. How did the students call you? What do they say, Miss Ray? Did they say, oh, Charity? Because some of them are really, cheeky a bit.
Thank you very much for having me. So how the kids call me. Well, I taught from a range of grades from kindergarten all the way to 11th grade. So in the daycare, they would call me Miss Cherry, because they couldn't fully say the charity. And then the elementary and middle schools, they would call me Miss Ray. And then right when school ended, do we get to call you Charity now? I was like,
What?
you know what? Go. Yeah, I was like, you know what? Go for it. If it makes you feel good, go for it. So
And
yeah,
and
I
you
was
allow
the
that?
name.
I would never allow kids to call me by my first name. Hello, I am your senior. You are. It's Miss Ray to you. Thank you very much.
During the school year, I'm like, what did she say? I'm like, no, it's Miss Right or Miss
Yeah,
Charity.
yeah. Because you know what, they get comfortable. So then I think it's very important to draw like boundaries with
Yes.
children. And they must know that you're not their equal. You are their educator. You are their senior. But anyways, whatever that makes you comfortable, we're with that. So, welcome once again. We're excited to have you come to our podcast today. And like I said, we will give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, tell us just a little bit about yourself, who this Miss Charity is, and where she's from, and why she ended up in private schooling. And I mean, being a private school teacher versus a public school teacher. And also, how did she grow up? Did she grow up going to private school? Yeah, talk to us, Charity.
Yeah, so my name is Charity Ray. I am 25 years old. I feel so old. Oh my gosh. And I was born in Brooklyn, New York. And I moved to New Jersey when I was around 6, and I have been living there ever since. I always, kind of like what brought me to like my background to be a teacher. I've always just worked well with kids. I would say it's, a God-given talent. And since I was younger, even I remember there was one time I was in the airplane and a kid was with her mom. The kid would not stop crying. Wow, wow. And the mom was like, just stop or whatever. So I just like, I don't, it's kind of creepy, but like I just like took the child and was like, we're gonna do crossword puzzles. The mom was like, go for it. She put in her headphones, knocked out. And it was like a 3, 4 hour plane ride. The entire time she didn't cry, nothing. And
Wow.
I was babysitting my neighbor's kid when I was like 10 years old, and they were like 4. And the parents would just go out like on a date, come back 10 p.m., you know? So I've always like been around children. For some reason, they've always gravitated to me. So yeah, so even like growing up, when I was figuring out what to do with my life, it always like had something to do with kids. I wanted to be pediatrician, you know? But yeah, for school, I was homeschooled. My mother, she taught me and my older brother from grades K all the way to 12th grade.
All the way to
And
12th grade?
all the way to 12th grade, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and she's a great person for her, so shout out mom if you're watching this.
Woohoo! Go
But
mommy.
yeah, and my dad taught me some subjects in 11th grade, like civics, economics, things like that. But yeah, that was my education life growing up. And I was always like, around children because I would travel to various places. My aunt, she was a missionary in Mexico, so I would always travel there. I had the pleasure of teaching a few kids English, and so I just always had that like variety of like different places to go to where I can meet different children, where I can meet different people, and yeah,
So I just want to piggyback on the private schooling part, no,
sure.
the homeschooling.
Homeschool.
That your how does it work? Because this thing, I mean, this is an American thing. I don't South Africans. If it happens in our country, please forgive me because I've never heard of it. The only time I heard about homeschooling is in America. Tell us how does that work? Does your parents have to be teachers, or I mean, how do they know what materials to use? And I mean, this is very interesting.
Yes.
Please
Right.
tell us more.
So when I started school when I was 3. So
Three.
when I was 3 years old, yes.
She's a unique little unicorn. Okay.
Yeah, when I was 3 years old. So originally, that's also the reason why we had moved from New York to New Jersey, because the homeschooling laws, they were very like strict. And now let me just backtrack. When
So
people
they
they
were
hear
strict way in New York or they were strict in New Jersey.
in New York,
Oh, okay.
yes. Yeah, so to backtrack a bit, a lot of times when people hear homeschool, they think of like, cut off from society, never seeing the light of day, waking up
Yeah.
11 a.m. in your
That's what I
pajamas.
think. Trust and believe.
Yeah,
Mommy locking you in. You stay here, you sit down here and you learn your math.
exactly. And everyone was like, how do you have friends? How did you learn to talk to people? You know? But for me, honestly, I woke my schedule. I woke up 7 a.m. We would start with, reading the Bible, having our devotions, eating breakfast, and then we would go into our every subject that regular school would have: math, science, language, reading, all of that. My mother, she taught us, all from like the hard books, lesson plans. And then when I got older in math, I switched to a video learning because it was like, heavier concepts and things like that. But yeah, everything, it was just like a regular school, but the only difference was that it was at home. So there
But
was,
by
we
your
had
mother, how is it regular when your own mother? I mean, how do you draw the lines? Because this is mom. I mean, we do so many things to our mothers. You
yes,
know,
yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know
And
how kids are
it's
around
so
their
funny,
mothers.
right? And it's so funny because even now, half of my teaching, like, I get from my mom. So how I
Wow.
teach my even kids now, it's like a homeschool class, you know?
So just tell us, is your mom an educator as well? Do you have to be an educator to be able to homeschool your children?
No, you do not. Yeah, so no, she's not an educator. She actually before she like settled down, got married and had us and things, she was actually a teacher at a private school as well. For about I think 2, 3 years, not sure how long, but she worked as a teacher and also as a secretary there. So yeah, so she does like she's very well versed in the teaching world. But yeah.
And then you also mentioned that your dad came on board when you were in the
Yes.
11th grade. Like, how?
Yes.
Why would he come in? Why did he come in at the 11th grade? What triggered that?
Right. So my dad, he's a motivational speaker and he
Ooh,
writes books, and you should interview him. He travels all over and things like that, and he's like very well versed in history and politics and things like that. So when I and in computer engineering, and when I got into that in school, it was like, why not? Your father is very well versed in this, so my mother doesn't need to teach that, my father can, so all the civics, all about government, judicial system, all of that, he took care of and taught me.
this is so interesting. I'm learning so much, and I'm sorry I'm cutting up my husband right now because I'm like, I'm like gaining so much from this.
Yeah.
So tell me, just lastly with the homeschooling. So you mentioned that your brother, how old was your brother again?
My brother currently 28.
So he's older
Yes,
than
so
you,
3.5 years older.
but you
Yes.
sat in the same, I'll say, classroom at home, and you were
Yes.
taught.
Yes.
So how was the separation? Because you were in a lower grade and he was in a higher grade.
Yes. So how it would look like, so we're 4 grades apart. So I'll give an example. So she would teach my brother, and also we were two different kinds of learners. He's the kind of learner where you just tell him what to do, he'll do it. I'm a very like hands-on learner. Like you would have to sit next to me. So many times she'd be like, okay, Timothy, do pages 36 to 38. Like, of course, after making sure he understood it, and she could just set him to the side because she knows he would get it done. Me, I'll be like, Mom, what's this part? Mom, I don't want to do it. Mom, so like she would have to sit next to me, make sure I got it done. So it's just like a matter of like, okay, 30 minutes, I'm spending time with your brother to teach him this topic, check his work, give him his test, and then while he's taking the test, your sister, being of course me, we're gonna go over reading. You're gonna read these pages. So it was just splitting that time in half.
That's a full-time job, and she doesn't get paid for
Yes,
this?
it's a full-time
I,
job. Full-time
She
job.
doesn't get paid for this.
No, she got paid in our gratefulness. No.
what I do want to ask, why she chose this route?
Yeah, homeschooling. Do you know? Did she ever share that with you?
So I forgot some of it, so mom don't kill me. But from what I remember, she always wanted us to have a biblical foundation in our learning, because like especially growing up as a child, you're getting so many different opinions, so many different kinds of teachings, and that are sometimes not biblical, and she wanted to make sure that my children, they're growing up in the right path, and they know exactly like what path they should follow. They grow to model citizens, they grow up to teach others, hopefully. So that was like the main background behind that, her educating us at home.
And would you go this route with your children?
Yes. Yes, I
Really?
would love to have children of my own, and I definitely would homeschool them, if not all, definitely the beginning years, because they're so important. You
Yeah,
know?
beginning years,
So
that's
yeah, I would definitely.
now, cause you missed out on a lot, sports, proms. You
Did
missed
I
out.
though? I'll
Huh?
get to that.
Okay,
Okay.
tell us more, because I mean, like you said, and I
Yeah.
love this, because homeschooling, we all have this idea, like you're really really debunking a lot of myths that I had in my head about homeschooling,
Yeah.
and you know. We're thinking that these kids are antisocial because I mean we love it. We would
Yeah.
think because we have a relative who's done that
Yes.
in the early years of her children,
Yeah.
and then she stopped because she had to go back to work because things were more
Mhm.
demanding as they were growing up. But we thought her kids were antisocial, which they were not. But we felt like they were getting left out on stuff, like you said,
Mhm.
sporting
Right.
activities, etc. How did you go around that with you and your brother?
So, concerning sports, we were always involved in various activities and various like sports groups. So, my brother, he played baseball. I played softball for 7 years. We were on a bowling team. And also there were several co-ops. Co-ops kind of like were like a bunch of different people, they gathered together because they're kind of like all the same, you know. So I was a part of the gym class that would happen every Tuesday, and we would play like volleyball, dodgeball, like for about like 2 3 hours. And of course, in my church, there was a lot of sports groups and just like groups of fellowship and things like that. So like it never felt like I was missing out, because like I always had a bunch of friends. Always. Well, my brother had a bunch of friends. I was a massive introvert.
So how do you
So,
make friends? You make friends through church?
through
And in
church, through
sports.
school meaning the co-ops, we would go to the library and there would be reading groups that we would join, you know? So yeah.
So if a parent wants to do go through the homeschooling route, you must get out there, get your children out of the door as well, because they need that. Otherwise, there will be whatever that
Yeah.
our minds were thinking homeschooling is, right?
Right.
All right, that's
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that.
what about the prom though?
Yeah, what about prom? That's important.
What
So
about class trips,
right. So
senior class
prom, we
trips?
always had our outings. I had my own graduation. My brother had his own graduation. That's, I would also say, one of the perks of being homeschooled. All the attention's on you for graduation, you know? Yeah, so I had a whole banquet hall rented out, a bunch of people came, all that kind of stuff. So I guess that took care of prom. We also would connect with other Christian schools that when they would have, like, banquets for their grade, if we were in the same grade, we would join with them. If they were like spelling bees that they were doing, or things like that, we would do. I wrote essays for contests, so it was pretty much covered, and field trips we would take as well, things like that.
Yeah.
So you already mentioned in our intro.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before you said that
Yeah.
though, this is why I do agree. I don't. It's okay with the prompt because you always did outgoing things.
Yeah.
You always did
Yeah.
outings and events and getting dressed up. So it's like you was doing it already, so you wasn't missing
Yeah.
anything. You
Mm.
was
Right. We would travel with my
networking.
dad,
Yeah,
all
you
of
did
that.
all the
Yeah.
different things, so you didn't really need a prom or you ain't missed nothing because that was like your normal. That was like your
Yes.
normal thing that you normally do. A prom is just dress up with friends,
Yeah.
and because you do
Exactly.
that, it's the same thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so and that's the one thing I was gonna do with my children. Have the different function, and we all do
Yeah.
dress ups and.
But who's gonna be homeschooling them? I'm not homeschooling no children. I'm sorry.
So that they
Yeah.
won't seem like they're missing the prom though. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you mentioned in your intro that your love for being an educator was just because you love children so much. What really inspired you? Was it that the love of children? Because you never really had like a proper, and I'm saying this you know with inverted commas, you don't have the regular or the normal route way of
Yes.
learning. You had homeschooling. So what made you
Yes.
what? Because I know when I was growing up, I used to mimic my teacher so much, and I think that's where how I got to wear glasses as well. Okay, maybe my eyesight is bad, but she used to wear glasses, and she used to do this all the time, and I thought I was going to be an educator when I grew up because I just loved my teachers, especially my
Right.
primary school teachers. I was like, oh my God, they inspire me, and the way they dress up. So what was your inspiration? What made you think this is what I want to do? And how did it evolve into a career?
Right. So when I was younger, like I'd mentioned, it was just, kind of like the okay, I'm good with kids. And of course seeing my mom do this, the lesson plans, it just like I was gravitated towards it. And then when I was around 14, 15, I don't quite know what switched, but I knew that I wanted to make a career out of it because earlier I'd wanted to work with children in a medical sense. I wanted to be a pediatrician because of course it
And that
pays
pays
more.
better, by the way.
Exactly. Right. But then I have this horrible dislike for science, and I was like, okay, I can't do this. So I was like, okay, teaching is the next best option, and I fell in love with it, just watching kids grow, being able to form relationships with them. It's just a beautiful thing, and I like such a passion for it. It's like there's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, and I must
So
say, I
yeah,
mean, teachers
it's
are
strong.
really underrated. It's actually the what is the word? The master of all professions, right? It's the mother of
Yes.
all professions.
Yes.
Because if there were no teachers, then there would be no doctors, no professors, no
Yes.
lawyers, you name it. And I feel like we look down on teachers. Teachers should really be valued more than anything and be paid even better than more than anybody because they are the people who really groom everybody. We are who we
Yeah.
are because of educators, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
We shouldn't just only say to to our veterans. We should say it to teachers too. Thank you for your service. 'Cause it takes a lot, especially this in the time we are living in now. It cannot be
Yes.
easy because we're gonna get to that later on in the interview, how you go around all these challenges that you guys are encountering. Because teaching back in our time and teaching now has totally evolved. Totally.
Yes.
For
Very
sure,
true.
for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
so, can you share a memorable teaching moment that had a significant impact on you or your students?
So I was thinking about this yesterday, and quite honestly, it may sound like a bit fake, but I swear it's not. Every day is so memorable for me, because it's not there's not really too many specific moments, but it's kind of like time periods. So for example, this year there was a kid in my class, and I taught them since the third grade, and they're now going into they were in sixth grade, and they were like, they weren't the best behaved student, and I had a really hard time with them. And finally, I broke through after the talks, after the therapy sessions, just like, what's going on? How can I help? This, all of that. Finally, that, like, a complete, like, 360,
Flip and
180, the
change.
teacher I should know this, a complete change, and
Mm.
like, so that's what makes me so proud of myself, I guess, and to be a teacher, because I know I'm making a difference. So moments like just seeing kids' behaviors changing, they can go from horrible to angelic, or just having a kid that you've taught that they're now in ninth grade coming back and like, oh, Mr. A, I remember when we did this, or we did this activity, or remember this, or you made me laugh, they still remember that, So those are certain moments that they really make me proud, and that I've, like, accomplished something.
Yeah, so you mentioned you're a private school teacher. Why private school and not public?
So for me, it's very personal for me. So with public schools, now yes, they do pay more, but with public schools, I do feel that I'm not able to express myself. For me, I'm a very expressive person. I'm a very dramatic person, and I always I want to say the truth. I want to get my point across, teach children the right way. And especially how public schools are now, we don't exactly have the same viewpoints, so I would find it very hard to be in a setting where I have to teach something that I don't agree with. Hence the reason why I stick to private schools where our beliefs line up. There are, of course, some differences, but our beliefs do line up more. And I do feel comfortable where I am, that, I can say without afraid to be canceled, or anything like that.
Mm.
That's,
So
that's
when you
why I
say,
graduated more private.
I mean, I'm trying to get an understanding of private school because in my mind I have a different um, idea of private school. Because for us, private school is you go to a school where you just pay more, and
Yes.
there's few of you in class, and it's not necessarily Christian. You have some that are Christian
Yeah.
private schools, of course,
Yeah.
but you also have private schools that are open to people
Yes.
who of different religions as well.
Yes.
So I don't know how it works in the United States. Is it like that as well? And do you just go to a particularly a Christian private school?
Yes. So with private schools, I wouldn't say most of them, but quite a number of them are religious schools. So whether it's a Jewish private school or Islamic private school or Catholic, Christian, they're usually based on some sort of religion. Some are
Mm.
just, plain charter private school. Me personally, I do teach at a Christian private school. But the main difference that I see between private and public schools is the connection that you can have with your students. In public school, there's oftentimes like 30 to 60 kids in one class. Like, you do your work, you leave, they're just another student, Then you go on to the next class. With private schools, the ones that I've only worked at two, but the biggest classes I've seen, it's like 10 to 12 kids.
Mm.
And that's in the elementary. In like middle school, biggest class is like 8 kids. I had 8 kids this year.
Wow.
And you can have a personal one-on-one connection with them so that no one slips beneath the cracks, that you could be teaching 8 students, that if one doesn't learn, you can say, okay, during my lunch break, come upstairs, I'm going to teach you this concept, you know
And that's why I guess parents are willing to pay that much extra to take their
yes.
kids to private school because of that interaction, and that you
Yes.
pay they're able to get more attention from the educators.
Personalized care, yes.
Now, one question, because I think some private schools you don't pay. It's profit, but they go by donations. So I
Mm.
don't think some private schools the students don't pay.
Really? Do you know
Oh,
anything about that,
never
Miss
heard
I
Ray?
about
don't
that.
know.
I never heard about that.
I know that there's always donations for private schools, but they still have to pay.
I know Catholic schools, yes, but private schools they have the students
Are
to pay.
Catholic schools not private schools? Okay, now I think we have some confusion here. Help us here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought they were private schools.
Huh?
I thought they were private schools. Because it is,
They are
private.
private, yes. They are
Schooling.
private, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they are private. Yeah, Catholic schools are private. We just say Catholic, but they are private schools. Yes, I agree. But some private schools do students pay? Like certain private schools, it's like for free as well, right?
Then I guess everybody will take their kids to private schools if they're
Or,
for
or
free.
all private schools.
I have, right. So I have known that private schools are actually much more expensive than public schools.
Yeah.
I haven't heard with any like free education. Maybe there is though, you know, but I've never been uh, known to that.
Hmm. Well, I guess it's something that we can
Yeah.
investigate because it's something that we're interested in. Maybe some other time we'll get a public school teacher to come on and talk to us how
Yes,
that works because
yes,
we can't be asking you things that you really have no idea about. So you gravitated towards private schools because you wanted to be able to express yourself in a Christian way and not feel
yes,
canceled. So is it like an
yes,
open thing in private schools? Because I was actually talking to my friend about this earlier, how the cancel culture is so rife now, and how we are forced, even as Christians, because my husband is a pastor, so we are very Christian orientated family as well, how now we have to be even careful, even with this platform that we have, how we speak, because you don't want to be canceled because of
yes,
the woke,
yes,
the wokeness that's around
yes,
the
Yeah,
world we
the
live in
world.
now, and
yes,
you can't say certain things, and it's really hard even as Christians because now
yes,
we feel like we being suppressed
yes,
on our beliefs. We have to now accommodate other people and bear with. I'm trying to find words. Yeah, accommodate them and not accommodate what we believe in and our
yes.
values. So how is it in private school? They tell you that be free, talk about Jesus, talk about God.
Mm.
I've never been to a private school, like, well, yeah, I've never been to a private school. I went to a multiracial school. It's a different whole system in South Africa, okay? But it wasn't a private school for sure. And so I just wonder. And back then, I mean, in my time, we were allowed to pray in school and so forth. I know that no longer exists in public schools.
Yeah.
Does it happen in private schools, especially if you go to like a Christian private school?
Right. So at the schools that I work at, we are very open with our faith. We start every day off with a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. We are definitely encouraged to speak about, Christ to, the students. And even sometimes the students will come to us with questions because not all of the students in the school come from Christian families. So
Oh,
sometimes they'll come and say, "Well, Miss Ray, you said in Bible class that Jesus did this, but my mom says this." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." It's a tough. I wouldn't say mommy's wrong, but
yeah, of
it's a
course.
tough line. So many times the kids they'll have questions for us that are sometimes very sensitive. Questions about celebrities, or I saw in the news this person did this. What does the Bible say about it? But yeah, we are very, very encouraged to share our faith. I am constantly sharing my faith with the kids, because when let's say some of them will switch schools, some of them are switching to public schools,
Mm.
and I'm hoping that okay, even though you're in a public school, you can still keep your faith, keep what you've learned, and things like that. But yeah, I'm very happy to be in a school that I can openly share my faith and encourage the children to hopefully share their faith as well.
And you're not enforced to embrace the woke culture.
No, not at all.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But I would like to know, how do you foster a positive and exclusive classroom environment that encourage the students and engagement and learning?
One thing that I always start the year off is telling them to not be afraid to be wrong. Many children, especially nowadays, they're afraid to make mistakes, and they're
Mm.
perfectionists because they want to be like everyone else. They want to live up to expectations of either their parents or friends. But I always tell them, don't be afraid to be wrong. If you're never going to grow if you think that you're perfect. Another thing I always tell them is that be free to make mistakes. I apologize all the time to them because I make mistakes like every hour of the day, you know?
Mm.
So, and even when I'm teaching, I always tell them, if you don't tell me what you don't know or what you're confused at, how will I know? So, like, help me to help you to grow, you know?
Right.
But just making sure that everything is like inclusive and positive. Like, let's say you don't know, you raise your hand, you say, Miss Ray, I didn't understand this. Like, it doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean you're
Right.
you're you're lazy. You're human. You're a
Yeah.
child. You're not going to understand everything. That's why you're in school, you know?
Right.
So that's the first thing I always start off with saying, don't be afraid to ask for help. I ask for help sometimes from them as well, you know, because we're not all well versed on all matters.
Because I see, like, I've seen a couple of videos actually go viral on social media where teachers, as the kids come in, they do the high five, they do
Yeah.
the little dances. I think that's so encouraging, because
Yes.
and the embrace, but I also hear that embracing is not allowed in public schools. I was like, what? And I think you told me that. I was like, what? I don't know.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
was like, so how do you really keep that? Because I know kids can have that attachment to you as a teacher,
Yes.
and teachers are always seen as a second mom.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in fact, it's their first moms. Teachers are first, because the child will
Yes.
tell you at home that, oh, but my teacher said this, and
Yes.
mom will be like, because teachers always right, and so how do you keep that balance? Because I don't know if
Yes.
in private school it's more open that you can embrace children,
Yes.
versus public school. So how do you do that? How do you bring the excitement in the class?
Yes.
And I know you've been teaching for how many years? 5 years?
Yeah, I just finished my fifth year.
Can you imagine at 25? So you started teaching at 20. Woo!
18. So I took 2 years off.
Wow, that is
Yes.
awesome. That is awesome. So, talk to us about what you bring in class to get it excited, and because I don't like those videos where educators bring in some
Right.
excitement, and you see how much the kids enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the kind of teacher, because I learned from my mother. I'm like a mom to them, and I can I'll go on for hours if you ask me how many times kids have called me mom or dad. So
Oh,
both
dad,
yes, it happened
what is
twice.
that about?
I was like, I know I have a deep voice, but I'm not your dad. Yeah.
But
Um so
sorry, Miss Ray, we can laugh all about it. It's actually, I think it's a cry for most kids, because if you probably went back, you'll find that the dad is either absent or,
very true.
or just not emotionally there. So maybe
Very
when they see you, they kind of see a parent figure and then end up calling you dad because they know mom is
comes out.
around. Oh
Yes.
man, that feels makes me
Right.
feel really sad.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and so many times, even if they're cards, they'll say, you're my school mom or things like that. So, and I'm very, very open and very loving with my children. Some have formed serious attachments, and it's very, very important to form boundaries, because I was teaching the daycare for so long. So it was very easy, just to pick up a kid, give them the hug, they can go on your back. But then I switched to middle school. You can't really do that there with a
Yeah,
12-year-old who's almost taller than you, you know? So,
yeah.
I always tell them, you can give me a hug anytime, all of that. But every day I'm always saying, there's a line, you can't cross it, there's a boundary, but yet there's a mix of, there's an appropriate type of affection, you know?
Right.
And even so many times they've written like a letter to me saying, you were the first person that ever said I love you to me, or you were the first person to ever give me a hug, or show me like what love
I
was
just got
like.
goosebumps you saying that.
Yeah, yeah,
Some
and
kids
it would
don't
really
really get to
surprise you,
hear their parents tell them that.
from the boys
Wow.
and the girls actually, because some
Wow.
of their home lives the parents are very absent from them, and they want them to be perfect. You get grades, that's all. You don't get good grades, I don't know you, you know so when
Wow.
the kids sometimes they'll come into school and they're down, and I'm like, I'll take them outside, I'm like, hey, what's wrong? oh, my mom or dad, they said this to me. And
Wow.
honestly, like, some of the things they said, I've been like flabbergasted. Like, how can a parent say
Wow.
that to a child? But and I reassured them, like, you know what, no matter what you do, whether you get this grade or not, I'm always gonna love you, you know? So I'm
And
not gonna
how
love
old
you.
are these kids that are being cut off by parents? When I mean, I think that child is at a development stage where parents are supposed to be nurturing them and encouraging them, and how
So
old
the
usually?
ages that I've seen ranging from like 10 to 14. Because
Mm.
like you said, they're at the stage where this is the time that they're forming who they are.
Yes,
And you're getting a lot of opinions from friends, but not enough from parents.
parents.
You know, right. So, I just reassure them, like, your parents love you. They may not always show it, but they do love you, you know?
Mm.
And just consistently pouring that into them, because sometimes their behavior is because of what is happening at home,
Wow.
and they just need to feel heard, you know?
And I think in most cases, you are what your environment dictates,
Yes,
you
yes.
Yes.
know. And if your environment is not nurturing and not giving you what you really, really want, then you start acting out and you think kids are rude and all that, but
Yes.
they just projecting.
Yes.
One thing
Yeah.
I would like to ask that's very important to me. Now, how do you involve the parents? Because I'm big on that because I believe it starts at home.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, parents expect the teacher to do all their work and do everything, and they just come home and they free to do. And
Yeah.
And when schools are closed, when is schools
yeah, and you
opening?
force it, and you
Like,
can't wait till school open back up so
yeah,
the teacher can get do all the job, not
yeah,
knowing that it's your responsibility as well as a parent to make sure your kids
it's a
is
partnership.
doing the right. Yeah, it's a partnership. So how do you include the parents, so that the parents can be involved in their students' lives? Because that's very
Yeah.
important. That's
Yes.
In their kids' lives.
yeah, in their kids' lives.
So every single year, I am always very one-on-one with the parents. I like, I always, one thing I even ask the kids the first day of is, do you have a mother and father in your life, or just mom or just dad? Kind of so I know who I'm dealing with, because like I don't want to be all of a sudden ask your mom and my mom died. I'll be like, oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
So I just want to know who I'm dealing with. So after that, I am constantly, filling in the parents. Hey, just want to say this, whether bad or good. So a child of mine, they had exceptional behavior. One of the weeks in school, I emailed the parent. I was just to let you know, so and so, they did extremely well. They're working very hard. They got this. I was so proud of them. Thank you so much for what you're doing. We do have, of course, parent teacher meetings, and now not all of the parents will show, but that's a different story. So the parents that, of course, do show, I tell them, what my expectations are. And I always ask them at the end, what can I do to improve? Is there any questions that you have for me? Is there anything that you would like me to do better in the classroom? Because of course I know that children, they go back home and tell, the parents everything. So,
Yeah.
most times they're like, nothing, Miss Ray. Sometimes they're like, do this. I heard of this. But I just always make sure they feel open to come to me anytime. If there's anything, because I tell them I make mistakes. I lose it sometimes. So
Mm.
if I offended you or your child in any way, please tell me so we can fix that.
That's incredible. I mean, I really truly believe that teaching is a passion. You cannot
Yes.
just do it for the check. You have to really love it in order to give yourself to these kids and
Yeah.
become the best of yourself so that they become the best of themselves.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you kind of the role model.
Yes.
If parents are not there, then teacher is always there. And like me, I copied everything my teacher did. And I'm sure most kids do the same thing. Wow. So tell me, what helps you to stay motivated, or tell us rather, and continue to grow as an educator?
Honestly, it's my students. They
Mm.
they 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 keep me going. Yeah, because some days I'll be having like a horrible morning. I'll come into work. Oh, Miss Ray, look at what I got. This, and it's like the most like dumbest thing. But I'm like, oh
Mm.
my God, that's great. And just like that, my whole like aura is just like changed. So just seeing them every day, making them happy, even after school, they'll be like, can you take me to the park? And most times, because the parents are so busy, they're like, yeah, go ahead, take them to the park, get them food after if you can,
Oh,
you know
really?
um, right. And I visit some of their soccer games and things like that. So I'm very, very close to all of my kids. That's what keeps me
Wow.
Wow.
motivated.
You're one of a kind. I don't know any
Yeah.
teacher will take kids after school. After work, I'm going home. I'm going to my family. What?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
good.
Oftentimes I'll stay at school in the late evening because they don't want to go to the aftercare. So I'm like, oh
oh,
boy.
wow.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Now, one thing I do want to ask you because I'm big on this, because like you said, you're an introvert. You learn different. Your brother's another different way. So everyone learns differently, and
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
something that we need to learn as teachers, as educators, as people that's
Yes.
in this field. That don't classify us because one might be learning one way and another one learning a different way. They're all the same individuals. They just learn differently, and you gotta learn their personality style. That's why I also promote the DIS assessment. I think it should be in all schools as well, so
Yes.
that you're able to be aware of each student and their personalities and how they learn. So I do promote school system. You want the DIS assessment inside your school? Reach out to me so that we can
Yeah.
work on something. But one thing I want to ask you: what strategies do you use to address challenges and support students with diverse learning needs? Because your moms had to do that with you and your brother.
Yeah.
So now, how you applying it with these? Because you got 8 to 10 students in a class. You don't have two people with you, but you got 8 or 10 inside one classroom, and it could be tough sometimes. Because everyone has different personalities.
Yes.
It could be 4 different personalities in there. So how do you do it?
So, concerning like the differences concerning their because there's educationally and behavioral. So, concerning their like different learning styles, like educationally, I treat the whole class the same and differently, and I'll tell you how. So, let's say I'm teaching a history class, pages 264 to 266. I teach it, I write the notes on the board, I make sure they're writing them down so they can study it, and then I ask them questions after. History lessons over. Then, because that takes care of the visualistic learning and the audio learning. So for the kids that they're not good at listening, they see what I'm writing on the board and they can copy it down because I'm a visual learner myself.
Right.
So they're like, okay, I can't remember my teacher's teaching. They have it right on the board because I'm writing down the notes. And then for the ones that being a visualistic learner doesn't help them, they hear what I'm saying. So that takes care of two types of learners. Then there's also the kinesthetic learners that like hands-on, like physical things. So that usually I reserve like a day or two to doing experiments, or oftentimes I feel like their environment changes how they learn. So now I'm ashamed to say I didn't do it a lot this year, but in the past years I'm like, hey, history class, let's go outside, let's do some review, and then we're gonna run 3 laps around because y'all look like you're about to fall asleep. And then when you finish, open up page 265, read it out loud. So just mixing it up.
Right.
And then that takes care of the whole class, but at the same time, individually, they're getting what they need.
I love that.
I
Yeah.
I
love
love that.
that.
Yeah, and
So,
that's educationally. Yeah.
yeah, that's incredible. I actually never even thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But that just the writing covers a certain aspect, and so
Yes.
of course you know you said you're in private, right? Do you teach a certain class, or you, like you said, you teach various classes, or are you particularly given one class and then you teach the entire curriculum? How does it
Right.
work?
So for this year in elementary school, how they have it in my school is from kindergarten to 4th grade. They're with one teacher for the whole
Mm.
school year. So it's elementary school. Our middle school starts from 5th grade. So they have 5th and 6th grade combined, and I was their homeroom teacher. So I did Bible with them, science, history, health. They had their own English teacher that was separate, and the 5th and 6th grade math was different. So I taught 6th grade math, and the 5th graders would do math with someone else. And of course, they had art separately. So they had like 3 different teachers. I was their main teacher, so I spent like 4 out of 6 hours with them, but they still like had like because in 7th and 8th grade, they have a lot more different teachers. So it's like wetting their feet, like they can see what it's like.
Because I feel like having one teacher, and if you're unlucky enough to have a bad teacher,
Yeah,
then
yeah, you screwed
then
up.
you
Yeah.
screw.
You're screwed. You're
So
screwed.
it's kind of tough because you don't really
Yeah.
when I think even when schools employ, they don't really know what kind of teacher you are until you actually do it.
Yes.
And these unfortunate kids, because I see it a lot where like my husband, his vocabulary wasn't that great because he had really poor teachers in his
Mm,
foundation phase, and
mhm.
who never really paid attention. And
Yeah.
I hear it a lot and I see it a lot because I work with people. And I'll be like, I feel bad because it's now transferred to the poor child who's now an adult who's going to
Yes.
continue to transfer to their kids as well because they had a particular bad teacher. So how do you
Yes.
work around that? Like when the teacher is bad, do they get fired? Do you know how that what
No,
happens? No?
no, no.
So,
I went to a public
so
school too, so it's even worse. Private school is not so much. Private school is better
So in
school.
private schools, when you're bad, do they fire you? In private schools.
so in my years of teaching, what I have seen is that there's like a step-by-step process. So most times, there's like a lot of parents complaining. Now, of course, there's certain parents, they'll complain if you breathe the wrong way. But let's say like the teacher, is doing something wrong, they will be talked to by administration. I have never seen anyone get let go. I have seen like them, like what is it, like receive like one of those like red cards, like correction, a pink slip, like kind of like this is your last and final warning. Usually the teacher will behave before that, before the last and final warning. But even times that, I messed up, you know what, hey Miss Ray, this and this and this, just work on this, so it's nothing as in like the teacher just won't fix. And I've never seen it like that.
I
But
mean, I
yeah.
think I think I'm talking in the sense of them not doing something wrong. They just had a bad background themselves in terms of in the education system, and this is what they
Mm.
know. And yes, they're educated. Yes, they qualify as educators. But when it comes to the actual doing, transferring the teaching methods, they just bad at it.
Right.
And they end
Yeah.
up,
Mhm.
producing terrible learners.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm sure in other schools it has been, but what I've seen is that even in the interview process, they make sure that the grade you're placed in is something that you can handle. So even when
Mm.
I interviewed, they asked me, they said, is there any grade that you don't feel comfortable teaching or any subject? And I was like, okay, let's start from anything above eighth grade. My mind doesn't go that far, you know?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, except English. 11th grade English, I taught that. That's fine. But if you give me 10th grade math, the kids are all gonna fail. I have no idea what I'm doing. You
And I
know?
think I think it's important for teachers to be open about that and not be afraid and don't think that if I say I cannot do 10th grade math, it doesn't mean I'm
Yeah.
stupid. It just that means I know my limits and I know how far I can go.
Yes.
Because it's really all
Yeah.
about the kids.
Yes. Very
Yeah.
true.
So is there like especially in this technology because AI is really taking over. How is
Yeah.
that affecting like the learning um, culture in schools because like technology is like an in thing. My husband is so in love. I think I'm the second wife over oh, what's the
That's
name
not true.
again?
Chat
What?
GPT.
Chat GPT. See,
Oh,
he
yep.
knows the name.
Yep.
He loves Chat GPT. Chat GPT is the new Google.
Yes, it's the new Google.
So how do? Because I'm thinking in school, if I was in school, I was gonna get straight A's because I would just be going to Chat GPT for
Yes. Yes.
everything.
Yes.
How is it
Yes.
affecting schools now?
So I think definitely in the higher grades, it's definitely affecting because most of their projects are online. Most of it's like you have to turn a paper. You have to do this Google assignment, But with the lower grades, where I personally taught, I've never had an issue with it because if it's writing, it's not on the computer. You do it in class. It's a book report. You read the book, then you write it down. So I personally never had the problem. I have had an issue with plagiarism, with books in itself, but never when it had to do with technology.
So they start at a
But
young age to pleasurize.
I taught third grade once, and yep, it happened.
Wow.
Yes.
We learn these dirty things at a young age. Oh my God.
Well, you're trying to do a lot of different things if you can get away with it,
I know.
Because a lot of
See,
times
I'm
maybe,
the same when I was younger. I'm like, it's not gonna work.
yeah,
Yeah.
because wait, but I know if you don't know how to quote it or citate it properly, then you plagiarize. But if you're using a book and you citate it,
Correctly.
Right.
citation,
Cite it.
cite it. If you cite it correctly, then you're not plagiarizing. If you cite it correctly, so that's the thing. And maybe the students sometimes maybe
Just take
cite
it as
it.
it
Yeah, they
is.
cite it wrong, or they did it. And they feel like, you know what, I'm gonna try to get away with it, and not
Yeah, it
knowing
was just
that.
a whole book copied. Like, wow.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, as kids, you really try.
Because even with ChatGPT, ChatGPT is like a first draft. I think it's great. You should take advantage of it. It's like Google but on steroids.
Yes.
It's like Google but on steroids because it's a first draft. But here's the thing: it's not for you to use ChatGPT to do all your work because ChatGPT is still the machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it do it so well. If you don't know what you're doing, you would think it's right and it's not right.
Yes.
And so that's why you still have to have a understanding of what you're doing, so that when it spit out the information, you're able to go over it and read it and say, oh no, that's not right. Oh no, because it makes it sound so good, like whoa.
And it's also limited, you know.
Yeah, and it's also limited, especially limited to the years. It only go up to 2021. So anything past 2021, it don't
For
have
now.
For now, yes, it don't have no
The
information.
free one, the paid one, I think it's
No,
up
still
to
the same
date.
thing, 2021.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that has been such a great discussion with you. But every interview or guest that we have something called the Fab Five. It's just
Yes.
some questions that
Okay.
we talk through, and we just want to get a feel of who you really are, because
Oh,
it's more about,
yes.
mostly about you. But I mean, you're an incredible teacher so far. I'm like so taken. I wish you were
Yeah.
my teacher. Your students are really, 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 really fortunate and blessed to have you. So the first five questions. The first one is, what is your favorite book right now, and that you are reading, and just tell us about that.
I'm ashamed to say that as a teacher, I really don't like to read. But
What?
Miss Ray.
I know I'm horrible.
No, you're not.
But a book that I can read again and again is the Nancy Drew series. It's
Nancy
mystery.
Drew. Does she
Yes,
still
I love
exist? I used to read that, I think, in a high school or something.
in the
Wow.
library.
Yeah.
I love the Nancy Drew series. I love it.
Because that's like fiction, right? Not, what is
Yes.
it? Fiction,
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
mystery. I love mystery books.
Yeah, it
So
was
yeah.
mystery. Yeah, I remember. Oh, Miss Ray, try reading. It's really a good
I know, I
hobby.
know.
But the best thing with the technology now, because I'm not a sit down reader as well anymore, because I just hardly have much time on my hands. So I listen to books, and I mean, they just open up a new world. So just
Yes,
listen if you can. But
that's
guess
very
what?
true.
You've got other stuff that's going on, so we cannot judge.
Yes. And you're a great teacher,
Yeah,
so
you're
you're a
an
great
amazing
teacher.
teacher.
You do a lot of different techniques to help your students learn and grow to be their best version.
Yeah, and
So
teaching
that's
is a
good.
demanding job
Yes,
as
it's a
well.
demanding,
So
and I think they should get a raise.
they definitely
They
deserve it.
definitely deserve a raise. Uh, yeah, but the next one is, what skills do you think people need today, and what skills do you think teachers need today to be an effective teacher?
I think that what a lot of people need today, just regular people, is patience. Because that's one thing that no one has anymore. Even when it comes down to just waiting in line. If the line's too long, they walk. Just
Yeah.
something as simple as patience. I think that's one thing that just people need. And for teachers, definitely understanding. Because one thing that I've realized when I first started out, I was not like this at all. I was like all strict. No, you do your work, sit down, don't disrespect me, all of that. It took about a year, my first year, but to realize I have to have empathy and understanding that many times it's not just, okay, I didn't do my homework. It's not just, oh, I don't like my teacher. No, a lot of times it's, and now the kid may not say, I didn't do my homework because I take care of this sibling, or I had a bruise and I couldn't write, or, and there's so many background things. So just to have understanding and to have empathy. That's one thing that a lot of teachers need, and that's the number one characteristic that I think all teachers should have.
And do you believe in this is outside of the Fab Five, but do you believe in corporal punishment? What type of punishment do you believe in? Because I felt like
So,
that worked back then, but okay, now maybe not.
so what's actually interesting is that my first year in school, corporal punishment was taken out of the school. My first year. So with behavioral problems,
That's a
I
bit
addressed
recent, though.
about 5 years ago. Yeah,
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 that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So, and at least, of course, in private schools. So how I address, like, behavioral issues, this actually comes into like different learners. There's different kids as well. They respond differently. So I have some kids in my classroom. All you have to do is just give them a look and they'll stop. And then there's some kids in my classroom, you just to say, let's say, John, you know what? John, I don't like what you did. It wasn't nice. You need to stop. He'll stop. But then there's some kids, what did I tell you? I said stop. Now you're not playing for recess, And that's the only way. So you definitely have to know which kid you're dealing with, because sometimes they'll shut off. Or I've had kids that they've done something really bad, but I'm like, okay, the mood they're in right now, if I correct them, they're going to shut down. So I just say, go to the bathroom, cool down, and in an hour, I'll talk to you. So it's definitely different. But the question of corporal punishment, I think that corporal punishment, it should take place in the home. I'm so sorry about that's my laptop. I apologize. It should take place in the home. It's the parents' job.
You still believe that don't spare the rod.
I do believe that. Yes,
I love it.
I believe
Because
it
we do
is.
believe
It is
it as
the
well.
parents' job. Yes. Right, and especially at a young
spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
because especially at a young age, you have like 3-year-olds, and the parents like, honey, let's process our feelings. They're 3 years old. They don't understand that. So now, of course, when you get older, I don't think like you should be like spanking a 14-year-old. That's not going to register.
Yeah.
So, but I definitely do. It's the job of the parent that, especially at a younger age, proper discipline is, necessary.
Proper, keyword,
Yeah.
proper discipline.
Yes,
Discipline.
and yeah, one thing I've definitely noticed is in my school, kids, some get too much discipline. So there are some kids, they're just like not good at all. And the threat, I'm going to tell your dad, it's not going to work, because they're always so used to getting disciplined. So like, okay, yeah, what's new? He'll just hit me again,
So it's
but
still
then
happening in the homes, and you can't report it, because I know in public schools, when a child says that, a teacher is obligated to report that. Really?
Yeah.
Nowadays.
It's only if they see something like a bruise.
Yes.
That's the only
But
way.
not if they say something.
Yeah, nah. I
okay.
mean, if it's not, cause you probably do this. If you got children, you're probably gonna do the same thing. You're gonna discipline your child.
No, because I have a friend who actually said her child reported her for spanking her.
Oh, wow.
And yeah,
Yeah,
but
what all they're gonna do is they probably report it to see if it's bad. If it's not bad, like it's nothing.
as far as she's concerned, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, so all they're gonna do is check on it. That's it. That's all they're gonna do.
But diapers came in.
Yeah, they're gonna
Yeah.
check it. They're doing their
Yeah.
due diligence. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah,
If
they would go
everything's
to-
good, everything's good, then it's back to normal.
I think we live in a.
Yeah, but I've definitely seen in my teaching career, there are some kids that I know for a fact they are being abused. Know for a fact.
Wow. And you can't do
but of
anything
course,
about it?
There's no bruises on them.
Yeah, no
You know?
bruises.
Oh,
Right,
so there
there's no
have to be bruises as evidence.
And there's
you
no
gotta-
proof.
You
Exactly.
gotta see proof.
Oh.
Right. And so the most that I do, I personally, sometimes will say, I don't want to go home. So I'll tell the parent, okay, I have to work with them for an extra hour or so, and then you can pick them up, or just anything to get them out of the situation. Or even some kids that their behavior is really bad. So necessarily, I cannot go and tell the parents. So I handle those behaviors in the classroom. You know, so it's all different types of behavioral situations and solutions.
You've made me love teachers all over again. Because I just see the a role that you guys play.
Yeah.
It's so important.
And
So
something that's key too in the beginning, even in a home,
yeah,
you got to do the same when you discipline, because
yeah,
Yeah.
all they respond differently.
yeah.
So like she
Yes.
said earlier, some kids
Know
respond
your
to,
child.
yeah, some kids respond to the beating, or some kids all they got to do is look in the face. And they're gonna stop, 'cause like, mom, dad
Yes.
got them in that look. If I don't stop, I know I'm gonna get
Yes.
it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes they need, maybe, maybe they games or whatever we take it from them for a period of time. They're gonna
Hmm.
respond to that, because some kids don't respond to just spanking,
Yeah,
or
I
they
know, I
get
know. I had a
or
cousin who never responded.
or
We used to cry. She just used to look at us and thinking, "What are they crying about?"
or
Yes.
they
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
or they get used to it, and so that's why you got to try different things, different discipline. I know we're going off for Fat Five, but you got to try different disciplines so that they're going to get comfortable and get used to one thing. Because if you're doing
Yes.
that one thing, then they're going to get used to it.
You
And
get
they're like,
immune to
yeah, they
it.
get immune to it. They're like, my mom, she always beat me. After a while, I said, okay, I know I'm going to get
And
it.
I'm gonna get it. So let me just.
Let me just
Yeah.
get out the way. And then
Yeah.
5 minutes, 10 minutes later, I'm going to get right back.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Once the pain
I
is gone.
agree.
Did you get a beating? Because we got a beating in our families. Oh my God, my
When I
mom
was
used
younger,
to.
there was corporal punishment. Yes.
You did? It
My
was a certain form of
Yes.
corporal punishment. It wasn't
Yes.
beating, beating.
Me and my brother, we were quite the opposite. So he was the kind, just one spanking. That's all you need. He's on the right path. Me, you had to, give me multiple ones for me to start to understand. Yeah, I was the harder child.
Thank God you've turned out to be such an incredible lady.
Yes.
Well done, mom and dad. So,
Yes.
Fab Five number three. Why do you think people give up or fail in what they're doing? What do you think is causing that?
I think that the number one reason that people give up is because they think it's not worth trying anymore, or they think it's not worth it, and they don't see the end goal. For me personally, I was at a time, maybe about 3 years back, where I was contemplating, why am I even a teacher?
Hmm.
Because I went through a very, very hard time in another school that I worked at, and it was torturous. And at the end of that year, I was a whole mess. I would come home crying every day. I was contemplating a lot of different thoughts, and I was wondering, like, because I couldn't see the end goal. I was wondering, like, why am I a teacher? Am I even doing anything right? It doesn't matter anymore. I should just switch my major and all these things. But then, of course, a new opportunity opened up at the school I'm at now, and I started to see that, okay, not every school is the same. Not every administrator is the same, you know?
Right.
And that's what, like, brought me out of that funk that I was in. And I saw the end goal, that my goal, I want to see my kids graduate. I'm working to that. I want to see them get older. I want to see them become parents. I want to see them have their own jobs, you know? And that's what I think is the solution to not really giving up. You have to have an end goal, and you have to know what you're working for and why you're working hard to accomplish that goal.
I love that.
Yes. Cool.
Isn't she just the best?
Yes.
Oh my God. If I was your parent, I'll be so proud.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
incredible. And what do you think, what do you love most? I think we touched on this earlier, but just to reiterate, what do you love most or you like least about your career?
The most thing I love, it's probably actually the same thing, most and least, probably the kids. So I love the kids with my whole heart.
Oh man.
But as teachers, we go through a lot of things. And it's more from the kids and less than parents and administration. And in my career, I've gone through like a lot of things that were just like downright not good. But because it's like, you know what, they're my kids, you got to give them a second chance. I have compassion on them. So, and it's like a thin line. So that's the best part and the worst part. You love them, but they hurt you and you still love them, you know?
Wow, love
So
that.
yeah.
Okay, back to Fab Five because that was just an extra. Fab Five. Number four. What are your hobbies? What excites Miss Ray?
Okay, when I'm not teaching,
I love
I
that
am
face.
I'm I have very few hobbies. I'm ashamed to admit it because teaching takes up so much of my life. So when
Right.
I'm not doing that, I'm probably sleeping, taking one of my million naps. I love
I
napping.
love
Yeah.
it. Sleeping club
Um,
here.
yes, exactly. And if I'm not sleeping, I'm probably like binging a Netflix show
Oh,
or
we have so much
right,
in common.
or just like scrolling on TikTok, just like mindless activities. So my mind is always working.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also important to do. But just be aware that because you'll be scrolling on social media and you'll find out, oh my God, 3 hours have passed already, you know. And even with
I'm like
Netflix,
totally
I'll be like, okay, one more, and then one more becomes like three more. I'm like, what? It's already 1 o'clock in the morning? Yeah,
yeah,
so
so
these
true.
mindless activities are not the greatest sometimes, but hey, sometimes our mind need that rest.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. So our last one, uh, and this one is important because
Ooh, okay.
when we come back to this episode, because the question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because when we
Okay.
come back 5 years from now, we want to be able to come back to this video and say, you know what, Charity said it, and she did it. So, we want to be able to come back to the video 5 years from now to say she's done it. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
God
Where do you
willing.
want it? Where you want to be?
Yes,
What you want
God
to
willing,
do?
yes. So in 5 years, I will be 30 years old.
Can you imagine? You'll be so
I
old. I'm
cannot.
kidding. I'm
Just
kidding. That
yesterday,
is,
I feel
yeah.
like I was having my sweet 16. So I cannot imagine that. But yes, I will be
Yeah.
30 years old and almost completing my 10th year of teaching. I'll be my 12th year.
Wow.
And my kids will be graduating at that time. They'll be
Wow.
in 11th and 12th grade.
Wow.
So I really hope that I'm married with children,
Yes.
and that I am still a teacher. And yeah, those are my top three goals: wife, mom, teacher. It's been that way for a few years.
Wow.
So I'm hoping that when I'm 30, I'll have all of that accomplished. You
How many
know,
children are you planning on having?
I want 3 children. Yes,
Three?
Three.
yes.
Us too.
My wife always wanted three.
Always wanted three. Always.
Yeah,
And
I
God
always
has
want 2 boys and a girl. Yes, always.
us,
Okay,
me
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Me
two
too. It's
boys,
always
one
been
girl.
two boys and a girl. I mean, Charity's like we know each other from another world.
Best friends already.
So, we pray that God, fulfills that desire, and I know it's possible because you're such an amazing young woman, and we pray the best for you,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
So we want to find out, how can people get hold of you, they can follow you, because people will want to know a little bit about you after this interview, because you're such an
Of
incredible young
course.
lady. So where can they find you on social media?
So my Instagram is at Cray Mar 587. That's Cray Cray Mar. My middle name is Marion. So MAR and 587. And that's mainly where I'm at. If I'm on Instagram, then I'm on my email or just a simple text. And yeah, should I say my email and number too, or
If
just
you're comfortable with that, because we're gonna
sure?
put it out there. So if you're comfortable, go ahead.
I'm totally fine with that. Yes. And so my email, that's craym587 at gmail.com, just without the AR in Mar. And then my number is 201 That's the best way to get in contact with me.
Anything you're planning for the near future?
For the near future, well, there's traveling. I attend, a few church trips in the summer. But besides that, my kids are already planning hangouts, so we were doing that. Yeah, we just had a hangout yesterday already. I'm like, you're not tired of me yet? Wow. But yeah, there's that, and then the new school year.
That shows how amazing you are. They never get tired of their teacher.
I'm
Like
surprised.
even during the summer vacation, they want to be with their teacher. So we
Yes,
want to
yes.
say, keep up the great work.
Yes,
You
keep
just
up
are
the good.
such an inspiration, and we hope that with this interview, that a lot of people will be inspired to even become teachers. Because for me, I was very scared to become a teacher in America, first of all. I just thought I won't be able to make it because the kids and the discipline and everything. I don't. But
Yes.
after listening to you, I feel like I can give it a shot. So thank you for inspiring me, and I know other people are inspired also out there. But also, we just want to say to our viewers, if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do press that subscribe button and share this video if you want to inspire other people who want to be teachers and just want to hear about the education system in the United States. Ms. Ray has already given us such a beautiful overview of
Yes.
what the private school education system is like. And I know some other people are wondering, maybe even, we even spoke about homeschooling. So if you want to know and you want to get inspired, please do listen up and share your comments. Ms. Ray will get access to this video and be able to respond to your comments, whatever that you may want to know extra or apart from what she said, or maybe an elaboration um, of what she answered us. But we also want to say, don't forget to follow us as well. You can follow me on Instagram at Lady Caesar One, and
Yeah, you can follow me and get inspired by LJ, as well as if you want to be a part of the community, you could join the community. We'd be glad to have. We got some exclusive content. We do webinar masterminds, book clubs for those individuals that don't like to read. We definitely have different book clubs that we got going on. Yeah, next opportunity windows. So if you want to join the community, you're welcome to join the community at next opportunity windows, and you could be coached by your boy, Coach LJ, as well as listen to the audio version. If you listen to this podcast on one of the audio platform, we ask you to follow, leave a review, give us a 5-star rating. Tell us what you think about the video. Let us know what other guests you want to hear. What you want to
and
hear
even if
from
you want to
us.
be a guest on our
Yes.
platform, do let us know and see, and we'll check it out if you're a great fit. And if you are, hey, we will be happy to interview you. And on that note, we want to say
Thank you.
thank you,
Yes.
Miss Ray.
Yes.
We really,
Thank you
really
so
enjoyed
much.
this. Hope you enjoyed it as much as
Yes.
we did. And any last words?
Thank you so much. Thank you for all that y'all do. It made me very happy and I had a very good time.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
All right, take
Take
care.
care. We'll see you next week, next video.